All right, everyone, and a massive, warm welcome to you all. It's absolutely fantastic to have you joining me today as we explore one of nature's most essential, yet often overlooked, processes. Before we dive deep into the buzzing, fluttering, blooming world of flowers and their helpers, I want to take just a quick moment to send out my sincerest well wishes. Wherever you are watching from, whatever your day holds, I truly hope you are feeling strong, healthy, and full of positive energy. Take good care of yourselves, your health is precious. Now, let's step outside, maybe into a garden, a park, or even just imagine a field full of wildflowers, and uncover the incredible story of pollination, what it actually is, how it works in so many surprising ways, and why it's absolutely vital for life as we know it, including the food on our plates. So, what exactly is pollination? At its simplest, pollination is like nature's matchmaking service for plants. It's the crucial first step in the process of a plant making seeds, and ultimately, new baby plants. Think about a flower for a second. Deep inside most flowers, there are special parts involved in reproduction. There's the male part, called the stamen. At the tip of the stamen is the anther, and that's where you find pollen. Pollen is a fine, often yellow, powdery stuff. It's basically the plant's equivalent of sperm cells. Then there's the female part, usually in the center, called the pistil. The top of the pistil is sticky and called the stigma, and it leads down to the ovary, which contains tiny unfertilized seeds called ovules. For a plant to create a viable seed that can grow into a new plant, pollen from the anther needs to land on the sticky stigma of the same type of flower. That transfer, that movement of pollen from the male part to the female part, is what we call pollination. It sounds straightforward, right? But here's the catch. Plants are usually rooted firmly in the ground. They can't walk over to their neighbor for a date. So, how does that pollen get from point A, the anther, to point B, the stigma, especially when point B might be on a completely different plant? That's where the magic, and the incredible variety, of pollination strategies comes in. Nature has devised several ingenious ways to solve this transportation problem. Some plants are the ultimate self-reliance. They use a method called self-pollination. This happens when pollen from the anther of a flower lands directly on the stigma of that same flower, or maybe another flower on the same plant. It's efficient and doesn't require any outside help. Wind or a little shake might be enough. Many plants can do this, like peas or tomatoes. However, self-pollination has a big downside. It leads to very little genetic mixing. It's like the plant is only breeding with itself or its immediate clones. Over time, this can make the plant population weaker, less able to adapt to diseases or changes in the environment. That's why the vast majority of flowering plants have evolved to rely on cross-pollination. This is where pollen from one plant is carried to the stigma of a flower on a different plant of the same species. This mixing of genes from different parents creates offspring, seeds, that are genetically diverse, stronger, and better equipped to survive changing conditions. But how does the pollen travel between different plants? This is where the real drama unfolds, involving wind, water, and an incredible cast of animal helpers. Let's start with the simplest couriers, wind and water. Some plants produce enormous amounts of incredibly light, dry pollen grains. Think of grasses, oak trees, pine trees, or corn. They don't bother with fancy flowers or sweet nectar. Instead, they just release clouds of pollen into the air, hoping that by sheer chance, some of it will drift onto the stigma of another plant of its kind nearby. It's a bit like throwing a huge handful of confetti into a breeze and hoping one piece lands perfectly on a tiny target across the street. It's inefficient, which is why you get pollen everywhere, including up your nose, causing allergies, but it works well enough for plants that grow close together in large numbers. Water pollination is much rarer. A few aquatic plants, like seagrasses or pondweeds, release their pollen directly into the water. The pollen grains are often shaped like little rafts or streamers to help them float, drifting with the currents until they hopefully bump into a female flower bobbing nearby. It's a quiet, underwater dance driven by the flow. But the most famous, diverse, and fascinating method of pollination involves animals. This is called biotic pollination, and it's a mind-blowing example of coevolution, where plants and animals have shaped each other over millions of years. Plants essentially offer a reward to attract animal couriers. The most common reward is food. Many flowers produce a sugary liquid called nectar, packed with energy. Others offer protein-rich pollen itself. In return for this tasty snack, the animal, while feeding, accidentally gets pollen dusted onto its body, its fur, feathers, scales, or legs. When it visits the next flower of the same species for another meal, some of that pollen rubs off onto the new flower's sticky stigma. Boom! Pollination achieved. The plant gets its pollen delivered, the animal gets fed. It's a beautiful partnership. But plants aren't passive. They've evolved incredibly sophisticated ways to attract the right pollinators and make sure the pollen gets transferred effectively. This is where flowers become nature's most dazzling advertisements. Look at a flower. Its color isn't just random beauty, it's a signal. Bees, for instance, are particularly good at seeing blues, purples, and yellows, and they can also see ultraviolet light, which is invisible to us. Many flowers have special UV patterns, like landing strips or bullseyes, guiding the bee right to the nectar and pollen. Birds, like hummingbirds, are often attracted to bright reds and oranges. Butterflies favor bright colors like reds, yellows, oranges, and pinks. Flies, especially those that pollinate flowers mimicking rotting meat, like the famous corpse flower, are drawn to dull reds, purples, and browns, often accompanied by a foul smell to complete the illusion. The shape of the flower is also a precise adaptation. Tubular flowers are perfect for hummingbirds or butterflies with long tongues, proboscises. Flowers with wide, flat landing pads suit butterflies and bees. Complex flowers might have specific structures that force a pollinator to brush past the pollen-laden anthers and stigma as it enters. The timing matters too. Some flowers open only at night, releasing strong, sweet scents to attract moths and bats. Others are strictly daytime bloomers for bees and butterflies. Some even bloom for just a few hours. The scent is another powerful lure. Sweet fragrances attract bees, butterflies, and moths. Rotting or foul odors attract flies and beetles. Some flowers even produce scents that mimic insect pheromones, tricking male insects into mating with the flower and getting covered in pollen in the process. It's an arms race of attraction and efficiency, resulting in the stunning diversity of flowers we see. Now, let's meet some of these amazing animal pollinators, the unsung heroes of our ecosystems. Bees are probably the superstars of pollination. Honeybees, bumblebees, solitary bees, they are incredibly efficient. They are fuzzy, so pollen sticks easily to their hairs. They actively collect pollen, packing it into special pollen baskets on their legs to take back to feed their larvae, and nectar for energy. As they move from flower to flower, pollen grains inevitably fall off or get transferred. Bees are vital for countless crops and wildflowers. Butterflies and moths are graceful pollinators. They land on flowers and uncoil their long, straw-like proboscis to sip nectar. While feeding, their legs and bodies brush against the flower's reproductive parts. Butterflies prefer sunny, open flowers, while many moths work the night shift, drawn to pale or white, heavily scented blooms. Birds, especially hummingbirds in the Americas and sunbirds in Africa and Asia, are crucial pollinators. They hover like tiny helicopters, dipping their long beaks and tongues deep into tubular flowers to reach nectar. Their heads inevitably bump the pollen-laden anthers and stigma. They are drawn to bright red and orange, nectar-rich flowers with no strong scent. Birds don't have a great sense of smell. Bats play a surprisingly huge role, especially in tropical and desert regions. They pollinate night-blooming flowers like agave, used to make tequila, baobabs, durian, and many types of cactus. These flowers are often large, sturdy, pale or white, visible in moonlight, open at night, and produce copious amounts of nectar and a strong, musty, or fruity smell. Bats lap up the nectar with their long tongues, getting dusted with pollen on their faces and fur as they do. Flies are incredibly diverse pollinators, often overlooked. While houseflies aren't major players, many other flies, like hoverflies, which look like small bees, and midges, are essential. They visit simple, open flowers for nectar or pollen. Some plants, like the cocoa tree, where chocolate comes from, rely entirely on tiny midges for pollination. And, as mentioned, flowers that smell like dung, carrion, or fungus attract specialized flies looking for a place to lay eggs. They get tricked into pollinating instead. Beetles were probably among the first pollinators, dating back to the time of the dinosaurs. They visit large, bowl-shaped, often fragrant flowers, sometimes fruity or spicy smells, munching on pollen, petals, or nectar. They tend to be messy eaters, rolling around in the flower, which gets them thoroughly coated in pollen. Other important pollinators include wasps, especially for figs. Each fig species has its own specialized wasp. Thrips, ants, though less efficient as they tend to clean off pollen, and even some small mammals like possums or lemurs in specific regions. So, we understand what pollination is and how it happens in all these amazing ways. But why is it so incredibly, vitally important? Why should we care about pollen moving from one flower part to another? The answer is simple yet profound. Pollination is the foundation of most terrestrial ecosystems and absolutely critical for global food production. When pollination is successful, the fertilized ovule in the flower's ovary develops into a seed. That seed is the future. It contains the embryo of a new plant. But more than that, the ovary itself often develops into the fruit that surrounds and protects the seed. Think about an apple. The core contains the seeds, and the delicious flesh we eat is the swollen ovary of the apple blossom. This is true for countless fruits, berries, melons, citrus fruits, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, pumpkins, mangoes, bananas, coffee beans, almonds, and so many more. Without pollination, there would be no seeds, and therefore no fruit. But it goes way beyond fruit. Many vegetables we eat are actually the result of successful pollination. Zucchini, for example, is the fruit of the flower. Even plants where we eat other parts rely on pollination to produce the seeds needed to grow the next crop. Think about grains. Wheat, rice, and corn are all grasses, wind-pollinated, producing the seeds that are our staple foods. Sunflower seeds? Pollination. Canola oil? From pollinated flowers. Nuts like almonds, cashews, and Brazil nuts? absolutely dependent on pollinators, especially bees for almonds. Chocolate needs those tiny midges pollinating the cocoa flowers. Vanilla requires hand pollination or specific bees. Coffee needs bees or flies. The list is almost endless. Scientists estimate that roughly 75% of the world's leading food crops depend, at least in part, on animal pollinators. That includes about 1/3 of everything we eat. Beyond our plates, pollination is essential for the reproduction of the vast majority of wild flowering plants. These plants form the base of food webs. Their leaves, stems, fruits, and seeds feed herbivores, insects, birds, mammals, which in turn feed carnivores. They provide habitats for countless creatures. Wildflowers beautify our landscapes. Forests, grasslands, and meadows all rely on pollination to regenerate and maintain their diversity. Imagine a world without pollinated wildflowers. It would be a much quieter, less colorful, and far less productive planet. Biodiversity itself hinges on this process. The intricate relationships between specific plants and their pollinators, like the fig and its wasp, or certain orchids and their specific bee, are marvels of evolution, contributing to the richness of life on Earth. Pollination also supports plants used for medicines, fibers, like cotton, which needs pollination to produce the bolls containing the fibers, biofuels, and timber. Sadly, this vital process is under threat. Pollinators worldwide, especially bees and butterflies, are facing serious declines. This is often called pollinator decline, and it's driven by a complex mix of factors, many stemming from human activity. Habitat loss is a huge problem. As we convert wild meadows, forests, and hedgerows into farms, cities, and roads, we destroy the nesting sites and food sources, flowers, that pollinators need to survive. Intensive agriculture relies heavily on large fields of single crops, monocultures. This might be efficient for farming, but it creates a food desert for pollinators when that single crop isn't flowering. When the crop does bloom, it might offer a brief feast, but it's only one type of food, and only for a short time. Modern farming also uses a lot of chemical pesticides and herbicides. Insecticides, designed to kill pests, often don't discriminate. They can also kill beneficial insects like bees and butterflies either directly or by weakening them. Herbicides kill off the weeds, but many weeds are actually vital wildflowers that provide food for pollinators throughout the seasons when crops aren't blooming. Diseases and parasites also take a toll, particularly on managed honeybee hives, with pests like the varroa mite causing devastating losses. Climate change adds another layer of stress, altering flowering times, shifting plant and pollinator ranges, and causing more extreme weather events that can wipe out populations. The introduction of non-native species can also disrupt local pollinator communities. The decline of pollinators isn't just an environmental issue, it's a direct threat to our food security and economy. If we lose too many pollinators, yields for many fruits, vegetables, nuts, and oilseeds could plummet. Farmers might face higher costs for renting managed hives, like honeybees for almond pollination, or might even struggle to grow certain crops at all. This could lead to higher food prices, less diverse diets, and nutritional deficiencies. The economic value of pollination services provided for free by wild insects is staggering, estimated in the hundreds of billions of dollars globally every year. Losing that free service would be a massive economic blow. So, what can we do? The good news is that there are many things, big and small, we can all do to help pollinators. It starts with providing food and shelter. Plant a pollinator garden. Choose a variety of native flowering plants that bloom at different times throughout the spring, summer, and fall. This provides a continuous source of nectar and pollen. Native plants are best because they have co-evolved with local pollinators and are perfectly suited to them. Include different flower shapes and colors to attract a diverse crowd of bees, butterflies, hummingbirds. Don't forget about larval host plants. Butterflies need specific plants to lay their eggs on, which their caterpillars will eat, like milkweed for monarchs. Reduce or eliminate pesticide use in your garden. If you must use something, choose organic options and apply them very carefully, never when flowers are blooming or pollinators are active. Provide water sources. A shallow dish with pebbles for landing spots works great. Leave some wild areas in your yard if possible. Piles of leaves, dead wood, or patches of bare ground can provide crucial nesting sites for many native bees, most of which are solitary and nest in the ground or in cavities, not hives. Support local farmers who use pollinator-friendly practices. Get involved in local conservation efforts or citizen science projects monitoring pollinators. Spread the word. Educate others about the importance of pollinators and how to help them. Even a small balcony with a few pots of flowers can make a difference for local bees and butterflies. Pollination is so much more than just bees buzzing around flowers. It's a fundamental ecological process, a breathtaking dance of coevolution between plants and animals that has been perfected over millions of years. It's the silent engine driving the reproduction of most flowering plants, shaping the landscapes we love and providing the incredible diversity of foods we rely on. From the wind shaking pollen loose on a grass stalk to the intricate relationship between a rare orchid and a specific moth, the methods are diverse and fascinating. Understanding pollination deepens our appreciation for the interconnectedness of nature. Every juicy apple, every plump blueberry, every sunflower seed, every cup of coffee, and every vibrant wildflower meadow is a testament to the success of this vital process. It's a delicate balance, currently under threat, but one that we can all play a part in protecting. By nurturing pollinators, we nurture ourselves and the health of the planet we share. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey into the heart of the flower. I hope you've gained a new appreciation for the tiny heroes and the intricate processes that keep our world blooming and fruitful. Remember, even small actions can create ripples of positive change. Once again, sending you all my very best wishes for continued health, happiness, and the joy of discovering the wonders right outside your door. Take care, stay curious, and I'll see you next time.